So we've got through April pretty much, and boy, was that a busy month. And we had all that really, really strong Aries energy passing and sort of giving way to the Uranus and Venus energy going into Gemini. Now we're really starting to explore, I think, the Taurus Scorpio polarity. So the sort of air and fire motif have really, stolen the show for quite some time. And so what I like about this full moon coming up this weekend, actually on Friday, the 1st of May, this full moon is really bringing us back into our body and back into our emotions. Now, I say that because the sun is in the sign of Taurus, which is all about the body. It's an earth sign, so it's very embodied and grounded and really absolutely about the feelings of comfort with the five senses. And then you've got Scorpio, which, the moon going into the sign of Scorpio, going into that opposition with the sun. The moon in Scorpio is... I'm not normally like struggling for words. I'm got to be really careful about how I say this because I don't want to upset anyone with moon in Scorpio, because I know many fine people. In fact, I'm married to somebody with moon in Scorpio. It is absolutely a strong position to have the moon in Scorpio. Really psychological, really emotional, really feels things. And, with that fixed energy that you have with both Taurus and also Scorpio, that is a fixed emotion. There can be fixed emotional states that can absolutely come out of nowhere. So it is it's a sign that can bring in a lovely depth of feeling. However, it can also bring in an unholy mess of emotion from time to time. And it just so happens that this particular full moon is a little bit on the stressy side. It's in a T-square to the ruler of, or one of the rulers of Scorpio. It's in a T-square to Pluto. So what I'm going to do in this video is explore the planetary picture on the day of the full moon. So you've got, an understanding the energies, which you can choose. I think, understanding the energies helps us make informed decisions around that time, so we don't have to get really stressed. If we feel pressure building us, we might think, oh, yeah, this is to be expected because of this, and this. So yeah, what I'm going to do is bring up my my trusty slides. We'll go through this step by step. Beyond the planetary picture, I'm also going to have a look at the Sabian symbols involved. So the Sabian symbol for the moon, the Sabian symbol for the sun, and see what meanings we can get there. And then after that, we're going to look for even more meanings to this full moon, because I'm looking at the asteroid perspective. What asteroids or trans-Neptunian objects. This week we've got, I think, 2 centaurs and a trans-Neptunian object and an asteroid. So it's going to go quite deep. So let's get going. Let's see what's going on. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. So welcome to Feel Good Astrology. I aim to use astrology here to help us feel better about ourselves. For me, astrology is really practical and it's a really good blueprint, and it really helps us navigate the astrological or planetary weather. Obviously, if you know the weather, you'll take an umbrella out with you, or you might take sun cream out with you, or sunnies or something like that. It's the same with planetary weather. If you know roughly, like, people might all be a bit triggered today, you'll be prepared for it. You'll have some kind of strategy to make sure you don't sit in a lift with somebody who's losing their rag. So yeah, that's how I'm hoping to help you today. So anyway, let's have a look. So with this, just, looking at the sun and the moon in opposition, not involving anything else, the time of the month that happens, once a calendar month. Obviously it's happening twice this month, but the full moon happens when the moon has come into an exact opposition with the sun. Now, the sun is about our light and our vitality. It really shows where we emit and we radiate energy, and it's a sort of really masculine energy. It's about our vitality and force and our identity. And then the moon is representing our psyche, our emotions, that sense of vulnerability, that absolute sort of feminine side of us. And, when they're at the opposition, I think things like projections and mirror work and shadow work become super important. Whether you realize you're actually doing it or not, is another thing. But often around the time of the full moon, you'll find that people are acting out of character, getting a little bit more hot and bothered, getting more and more unreasonable. And unreasonability, I think, would be a motif of this particular full moon, because again, they're fixed signs, and Scorpio can bear a grudge. Scorpio is a fantastic sign. Like I say, I really don't want to talk against it. My husband's got his moon there. I've got my ascendant there. I love the Scorpio energy. However, the moon here, when it's really stressed and in an opposition, it's absolutely stressed. It can bring out a lot of tensions, and some of the stuff that maybe has been held onto for a while. Fixed signs sustain things, they hold things, and the moon here has held a lot of emotions, and it may well just want to let those out. So it would be very interesting, if you're looking at this and you're concerned about it, or you're just wondering, I wonder how it might hit me. It's just see where it is in your chart. Where is Scorpio in your chart? Is it where is 11 Scorpio, in fact, in your chart? Do you have a planet there? Do you have an angle there? Where is it in your partner's chart? Where is it in your child's chart? If there's something really important going on, just check how it falls in your chart. And if you don't know, in about 3 hours time, I'm doing a hangout on school. It's at 8 p.m. tonight on London time, and that's on the 29th, Wednesday, 29th of April. If you're available and you want to join me and the rest of the community, then come and join my free school community. You can just scan the QR code above and come and join us, and and you can talk about it. This is a place where we can explore how this might occur to us. So yeah, this is strong. Now, Scorpio absolutely needs to feel in control, and absolutely needs to feel like it's not being taken the mickey out of. It needs to feel safe, and that safety comes from power and control. So it's an interesting one. So if you're feeling vulnerable, or if you have been feeling vulnerable and you're feeling a little bit out of sorts, and you're not feeling very much like you have much agency, you may find that all of a sudden this little control demon comes up, or this control play, control script comes up, almost like a manipulation. You might also find people around you are starting to do that. Basically, on this day, with a full moon, and the full moon in Scorpio, it's likely to bring up control issues. And it's either going to be you or your partner doing it, or most likely both of you doing it. Now, if you've got a lot of things like that going on in your chart anyway, I think of it as a sort of pre-established channel. If there have been times when you've used your emotions quite unconsciously, because I think we learn these patterns unconsciously at first before we get conscious of them. You might have found as a child, like if you cried in a certain way, you'd get attention, or if you shouted loud enough, things would start to change. So it's this learned experience, and the danger here is there is tension building. The sun and the moon are in a T-square to Pluto, and Pluto is one of the rulers here. Pluto absolutely loves control himself, and he doesn't like to be usurped. So this is raw and sore, potentially. And I think whatever comes up is going to come up from a place of hurt, but it's not necessarily representing the real you. It's representing a part of you that maybe hasn't healed. Now, that doesn't mean to say it's the whole of you, but there's stuff, I would say, being stirred up. By the way, when I say this is happening right on my ascendant, so maybe I'm just talking to myself here. So yeah, the moon in a square to Pluto can bring up a lot of very heavy and strong and petulant emotions at the best of times. Pluto in a square to the sun can also bring up a feeling of like fear of losing control. What happens if you absolutely don't, if you're laughed at, or if none of us can actually control other people. Other people have their own life to run. And this is difficulty because, we've been raised in societies that have largely said you follow your elders, and there are people in authority that you have to listen to. And of course, with Pluto now in the sign of Aquarius and not in overbearing Leo, which is where it was positioned for a lot of, for instance, my parents have got Pluto up here. The boomers have all got Pluto up here. So that sort of early boomer generation, the children should be seen and not heard. All of those manipulations come up in subsequent generations because we haven't been able to claim our power. So if we are to be powerful, we've had to be sneaky about it. So this is difficult. Pluto likes to hide things and obscure things. He's the god of the underworld, so things stay pretty well hidden. And if you think of the zodiac signs, if we were to find the most secretive of the zodiac signs, it would be Scorpio. So expect stuff that has been hidden ancestrally under loads and loads of junk. It might take you by surprise, the sheer force of it. Now, that can sound a little bit, scary. And this is where I want to counter that, because we've also got a lovely offshoot of energy going to Jupiter. So here we've got the sun in a sextile to Jupiter. This is really kind of feel good. This is, I would say, about us feeling into our expansion, feeling into joy, feeling into things that we're passionate about and excited about, feeling into humor is a really big one. And Jupiter is really doing well. He's exalted in the sign of Cancer. He's very happy. And really Jupiter in Cancer, I think, is talking about support from family, that we don't have to do this alone. Whatever is going on, to me, this is a safety net. This is protection for everyone at the time of the full moon. Now, Jupiter's also in a lovely water trine from Scorpio to Jupiter, from Scorpio to Cancer. To me, again, this is deeply, deeply protective. Now, anywhere where you might be feeling possessive, moon in Scorpio can be highly possessive. And actually the sun in Taurus can also feel quite possessive of partners, and also of like, this is mine and that's yours. It's a static sign. They're fixed. They don't want to have to let go of the things that they absolutely love and adore and cherish. So if you're that person, you might feel a bit stifled. Whereas Jupiter here is showing the moon a different way of feeling connected to somebody. And it's from active feeling. It's not from possession, which actually kind of kills emotion ultimately. It's just showing mutual support and a feeling, like a flowing feeling of energy. So I think that's interesting to observe. It doesn't have to go dark. What I really see coming up is that we might be consciously aware of something that's stirred in us that feels unpleasant. And then we say, okay, that doesn't feel good. Now I want to reach for something that feels good. How can I transform this energy? How can I transmute it? And funnily enough, Scorpio is all about the transmutation. So it really fits. To me, this is a full moon that is evolving our experience of our emotions and saying, just because there's a full moon, you don't have to experience it with drama. You can maybe feel something that feels dramatic, and you can notice it, and in the observation of it, you can choose another emotion. So this is giving us options. Now, we've also got an ongoing kind of loose stellium. So we've got Neptune connecting to Saturn. They're getting further apart. And then Saturn and Mars are also getting further apart. Now, these are the three men, and both Mars and Saturn are known as malefics. They're not seen as very positive planets. In fact, Saturn is really ruinous in the sign of Aries. He's not happy. And then you've got Neptune. Neptune does have his own defensiveness, like he can create tidal waves and typhoons and things like that. In the sign of Aries, these three really like a fight. Mars in particular, because he rules Aries. And funnily enough, Aries is also the other ruler of Scorpio. So Mars is very, very strong here. Now, Mars is, later on, we'll find he's in a square to Jupiter. But wherever Aries is in your chart, wherever it's fallen, it will have been really emphasized over this last month, because there was a great big party, a planetary party going on in Aries. So whatever is kind of left over from April, I think is still going to be quite active. There's still things going on with it, and maybe still some stresses that need to come out. But this could be a very, very stroppy part of our chart, and one that we're really wanting to transform, and one we're really wanting to take action on. Anywhere where you've got ideologies that are really ruling you and adding into the emotional picture, it's going to really kind of inflame it. It's really inflammatory. But that's still, just something underneath the surface. It's still playing. So we've also got Venus in a skipped step to the nodes. What this means is she's in a square to these nodes. She's square the North node, and she's also square the South node. Now, with these skipped steps, it's always got an implication that something has been left behind, something has not been dealt with, something needs to be resolved. And so what you might also notice about this full moon is that it's bringing up emotions that have been unresolved, something to do with how you're relating to others. Venus is all about flow, receptiveness, open, like an open sort of transparency. Venus is absolutely wanting to connect and wanting to relate to others. Like, she relates to wealth, she relates to value, she relates to feeling good. And so anywhere in the past that is showing up right now in your present, where you've learned how not to feel good, or how to shut down, how to shut down your emotions, shut down your connections. If you're doing that around the time of the full moon, that's also going to make, whoever is acting out with the moon in Scorpio, it's going to make them feel crazy. So you might sort of disconnect from people because of past pain, unresolved pain. And in that sort of disconnection, you then go into the drama of why you're disconnecting, and that can absolutely escalate. So to me, this is also an indication that if anything that's going on leading up to the full moon, and then just after the full moon, if anything feels familiar, really familiar, I've done this before, or God, I absolutely felt like that the last time this happened, then that's your cue that this is being stirred up. But it's being stirred up, it's being stirred up so it can be released. Pluto is there to utterly open up the underworld, so you can see, what has been hidden, what you've maybe swallowed and forgotten about because you didn't feel empowered, or you didn't feel like you had the agency to absolutely work on something. This is opening up the sort of belly of the beast. This is opening up the energy of what has been hidden, really for your own protection. But I think this is about letting things out and letting things see the light of day. And Jupiter at the top of the chart, I think, is actually quite a good sign. I set this in London, in the London time zone, because that's the one I live in. Now, we've also got the Jupiter and Mars square, and I've put a little A next to them. I've put A's next to the things that are applying. What that means is Mars is the faster planet here, and he's moving actively into this square. It's something that is evolving over the next few days. And so Mars in a square to Jupiter can really emphasize action that you're taking, and the emphasis can take it slightly out of control. Obviously, Mars ruling Aries, he's a planet of action, a planet of dash, where he sees something, he wants to do something, and he just goes on and does it. He doesn't ask for permission. He just shoots along and gets it done. In the square to Jupiter, Jupiter is just going to work with that energy really quickly. It's going to expand exponentially. So that's another part of this full moon to bear in mind, is the baseline of what you're feeling is likely to expand up and out and radiate out of you. And if you're taking actions because of uncontrolled emotions, that's going to quite possibly have a knock-on effect. I mean, as I'm saying all this, I'm wondering, gosh, what's happening at this time? Because this is happening on a Friday. And like Friday into the weekend. It's also right at the beginning of the month. And I know in England, or when I used to live there, a lot of people got paid on the last Friday of the month, or they went out to celebrate with their work colleagues at the beginning of the month. And Friday nights are often a night when things are really, really social and people are letting off steam after a bit of a build up. And I do think there's also more protests and riots and things like that going on at weekends, when people aren't at work and stuff. So to me, this just feels a little bit like the tension that has been building up for a while is going to be released. And it's strong, it's I keep kind of stumbling on my words because I'm just almost a little bit shocked at how strong it is. And finally, we've got this continued cradle. It's called a minor grand square between Pluto and Uranus. Pluto's also in a trine with Venus, and then Pluto and Neptune, and Pluto and Saturn. And they're all sort of connected to each other. This is really giving a lot of energy to the outer planets. In fact, these are the three outer planets: Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then you're adding in Saturn. You're also adding in Venus. These outer planets are working really quickly and really strongly together through ideas, because they're two of them are in air signs, and also through the will, the fighting spirit of individuality, which is represented by Aries. And so these are like ideas and upsets that are kind of setting our world alight. Like last night, in my classroom, in my community, we were talking about different elements when they pair up, and like what happens with those different elements. And of course, air and fire, fire needs air to become even stronger, and of course air can just blow things away. When we've had forest fires and things like that in Portugal, if we've got a wind, it spreads, the damage spreads for miles and miles. And it's fast heat, really, really fast moving heat. So these outer planets in these signs and elements, I think, are really shaping humanity quite a bit. So this is a really big full moon, especially if it's landing on a really important part of your chart. Really important to see where you might be maintaining tension and where you might need to start to release some of that tension as soon as possible. Now, let's also have a look at the Sabian symbols. Now, I love Linda Hill's website, because it's just so simple to use. I love that. But I also really love her explanation and her translation and reimagination of the original Sabian symbols. So Linda Hill's got this site called www.sabiansymbols.com. There's 360 degrees, and every degree in the zodiac has its own channeled message. So this is a channeled message for the full moon in Scorpio. Her website is completely free to use. And so my recommendation, if you want it, is to check out the Sabian symbol for your sun, maybe your ascendant and your moon, and see what those symbols say. You'll notice they always get rounded up. This is the one for Scorpio 11, because nothing is ever 1100. It's like 11 and something else, a little bit of small change. So it always gets rounded up to the next one. And you don't have to do that. The website does it for you. So the full moon in Scorpios is saying a brilliant assembly of officials at an official embassy ball. So immediately, if there's something going on this weekend, like anything really official, something really fancy where there's lots of important people, to me, that's like got my attention straight away. This symbol implies the ability to mix with people from all over the world, to talk in different kinds of languages or travel in circles of the elite. There's probably an issue about being invited to the right functions, or that you're sure of being on the list of those who gather to make decisions or call the shots. Enjoying social situations can be rewarding on many levels. However, the conditions may sometimes be caged in rather strict protocol and rules of behavior that you and others have to adhere to. Look at yourself and observe whether you are being your natural self or putting on a show for others. This can imply social climbing and political strategies, political game playing, manners and protocol. who knows who and what it's worth, being able to speak everyone's language, issues of being invited, etiquette and dressing up. So to me, like, if we've got this sort of energy of there is this possibly stressy energy, a stressy meeting, a status symbol meeting. There are these events going on. When you also add in the fact that there's a full moon at that degree, that I think, does it spell danger, or does it spell so much stress around the event, and so much stress about being recognized, and so much stress around being taken seriously and being seen for the status that you have, that I think the full moon energy is going to come out in full bloom. I mean, to me, as I look at that, I'm reminded of times when I've utterly pissed at work dues in front of a really important boss, and then later regretted it. Obviously, that was a lot earlier in my career when I was a corporate person. But yeah, those Friday night piss ups, that's what's really coming to mind here. It's like, especially as well, if you are emotional and then you drink, or you're emotional and you party, anything. I mean, one thing I've known about myself is, if I'm emotional, underlying emotions going on, if I go out somewhere, I'm so much more sensitive to all the people around me, and so much more sensitive to any triggers that might come in, or any feelings of dis-ease. I notice them so much more because there's already something churning in me. Add in some alcohol, add in drunk people, and it spells disaster. So I really think it's really important to be as balanced as possible. And I probably would avoid any massive congregations of people who are partying this weekend. I would probably play it really calm. I say probably because actually I play it calm all the time. I'm at home with the kids and stuff. Now, where this could go wrong: role playing, not knowing how to behave in polite society, Cinderella feelings of not being worthy, diplomatic standoffs. I mean, that's caught my attention. Gate crashing, out of one step. So this is important. Now, the thing with full moons and new moons, and really eclipses, but the full moons and the new moons, when they come up, that degree stays important for the next 2 weeks until the next new moon comes along, and then that degree takes over. I really think of them as critical degrees. So 11 Scorpio, that equals this, like the brilliant assembly of officials at an official embassy ball, that is holding the energy of that for the next 2 weeks. So yeah, I would be cautious around those situations. Then the sun in Taurus, conversely, this is the Sabian symbol for that. A young couple walk down Main Street window shopping. Now, that sounds really nice. That sounds kind of easy, doesn't it? This symbol shows an image of a young couple window shopping, imagining and picturing what they want for their future. Some things may be out of reach, but that doesn't stop you from looking, planning, dreaming of what might be. Enjoy the interlude and then get back to your real life, where you can take steps to make money or put your plans into actuality rather than just looking. Jealousy and greed can rise up when there seems to be so much so close. Realize that things of inner worth are available to you right now. Longing for things, consumerism and its allure, shared dreams, buying more and more, credit cards, finances, especially shared finances, the future and its possibilities. Well, this phrase here, jealousy and greed can rise up, that really struck a chord because, out of all the signs of the zodiac, Scorpio is the one most, and Cancer, but Scorpio especially, is really associated with like jealousy and feelings of possessiveness, and the upset of not having what they want. Especially seeing Scorpio really likes to feel empowered and likes to feel a sense of control. So if feeling like you don't have enough, and then conversely seeing parties and delegations and the high life and the status, if that kind of feeling of being shut out from one life whilst also longing for it, that's going to be quite difficult. So again, just from my perspective, I would avoid all of that. And I really like this line here: realize that things of inner worth are available to you right now. Now, where it goes wrong or a bit wonky is where you're denying inner worth because of material deficiency. So when you're associating wealth with worth, that's obviously going to hurt you. Trying to keep up with the Joneses, tire kickers, those who want to look but don't want to commit, overspending. So this is a time to absolutely hold your money still and value what you do have. Because I think, I think everything on this planet is an energy field. I know it doesn't look like that, but that's my strongly held belief. And I think money has an energy field. And if you're upset with money and upset that you don't have enough money and then resenting money because it's not coming to you, I think the energy of money is going to feel that. It will, you're creating it yourself. So to me, this is the perfect opportunity to feel into your comfort, feel into your real comfort right now, any comfort you can find in your body. And then with the things that you do have, absolutely appreciate them so much, so that you can kind of turn that energy around. It also makes me wonder about the financial markets this weekend, given that there's talk of people from all over the world kind of gathering about something, but it's there's the implication that things are spread, the situations are reaching out to the elites around the world, and there's also something going on about value and money and not having enough. So I wonder if there is something about to change in the markets. I'm not a financial astrologer, but I do know that when outer planets change signs and nodes change signs, and that's coming up very soon. And also when we get full moons and new moons, this absolutely affects the markets. So to me, I think there's probably going to be some market volatility. Again, don't take money advice from me, but that's just my sort of instinct of what I think is going on here. I think there's going to be some real instability, and it's your cue to maybe look up if you're somebody that's got lots of investments. So let's have a look at asteroids and other stuff. Now, I have to say, these asteroids that are playing into this full moon seem a little bit mean and a little bit angry and a little bit resentful, which kind of matches the full moon flavor here. When I saw a couple of centaurs, I was like, oh God, because centaurs, obviously Chiron's a centaur and I really love Chiron, but centaurs can absolutely cause trouble. Centaurs are known for being quite rabbly. They like a fight. And in fact, Orius and Amycus both died in a fight. So there's a lot of fighting going on with the centaurs. So let's get going. So a lot of these characters I don't know so very well. I know Lilith and Urania very well. So we've got, and I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Achlys? I don't know, but she's a trans-Neptunian object. She's out past Neptune. She's a primordial goddess of misery, sadness, and the death mist, the clouding of the eyes preceding death, born of nothingness. And, there's a story about her and how she worked, I think, with Juno or Hera maybe, to poison to poison people because of some internal upset. So, she's not known for being a really happy character. Now, Achlys is in a T-square to the sun and the moon at the time of the full moon. So to me, this is talking about retribution and that potential poisoning, and I'm not expecting that in your life, but I'm wondering if we're going to hear about some of this in the, in the news. To me, this is, it sounds threatening. It sounds like retribution. It sounds like getting back. It sounds like there's an energy to mourn and to create sadness and to create misery for other people. So this sounds quite unpleasant. I mean, the great news is, we always use the main planets. I just put in the asteroids just to get a little bit of extra information. And they really tend to, my experience of using asteroids and trans-Neptunian objects and centaurs is that something quite magical can come up. We might realize something really quite deep there. But sometimes, there's some really sad and difficult translations. We've also got Orius. He's down here with Amycus. So these are the two centaurs in the sign of Aquarius, very, very close to Pluto, both in a T-square with the sun and the moon, and both in opposition to Achlys. Now, Orius is a half human, half bear, really, really strong, massive fighter. Like I said, he came undone when he died in a massive fight. He's said to appear as whatever he touches. Now, to me, that suggests that he's a little bit of a chameleon. He's got this ability to sneak in places and to get to see things others don't get to see. And he's said to also be tuned into the collective. I'm not entirely sure, but to me, this is, and in the sign of Aquarius, recently I've been holding a series of lessons, a course called The Signs. And each week we looked at a different sign of the zodiac. And with the sign of Aquarius, it really became so obvious to me. Just Aquarians really do see things other people don't see. They see them before other people are ready to see them. And that's why sometimes Aquarians, I think, like a bit of space from the rest of humanity, and sometimes are referred to as a little bit odd or a little bit unusual because, they're slightly out of touch with the rest of time, the rest of time and space. They're seeing what's going on ahead of time. They're making the connections, but people aren't really ready to see it. So it's interesting that Orius is here, and he has been in a fight, and he has got some cunning. So that to me is interesting. Now, Amycus, again, he's really sort of like a powerful centaur, but he's got an insatiable urge for power, and he's really quite brutal. He's also got this ability to find the anomaly that has been latent in the system. So again, with Orius and Amycus, to me, this is suggesting that there is something within the system, a glitch in the system, a glitch in the matrix, something that people with eyes to see can already see, that something pretty big is coming up, something that might feel brutal or powerful. But to me, this is suggesting that something that has been kept hidden is being revealed right now. And, it's interesting that they're so close to Pluto because Pluto guards the underworld and all of its secrets. So what is coming up from underneath is my question. And then let's also look at the two ladies here. So we've got Lilith and Urania. Now, most likely, if you see Lilith in a chart, you're looking at Black Moon Lilith, which actually isn't a true Lilith. It's it's not a physical Lilith. The Black Moon Lilith is an energy. It's a calculation, and it's not physically real. It's like there are three Liliths. There's the Dark Moon Lilith, the Black Moon Lilith, and the Asteroid Lilith. We're talking about the Asteroid Lilith here. I really recommend going to Dark Star Astrology. Marina at Dark Star Astrology, she's written a series of Lilith blogs if you're fascinated by her, especially if you've got a strong angular Lilith, or you've got a Lilith close to your sun or your moon, for instance. You might want to look it up. But Asteroid Lilith, because it's an actual asteroid, it's a very sort of physical Lilith, and there's a really strong story around it. So Asteroid Lilith is the first Lilith we could consider. She might be the first wife, although I've written wide here for some reason, first wife of Adam in the Bible, not in the Christian Bible, but I think she's written about in the Jewish texts, according to Marina from Dark Star Astrology. And she was created out of the clay of Adam, the clay that was, used to create Adam. And because she was created from the same clay, when he wanted her to lie underneath him, she refused. She said, I'm an equal. There's no way I'm going to lie underneath you. And, there was a huge sort of humiliation for her. She refused to submit to Adam's rule. She's absolutely feminist. She absolutely really saw her power and refused to diminish it. Now, in the story, she flies off in a fiery rage. She curses God, curses Adam, and she curses all his children, and she vowed to kill 100 of her babies. Now, I think that's kind of symbolic. So to me, I wonder if there's things coming up about feminism. By the way, if you are a feminist listening to this, just because I've said she's, she's quite a nasty character in astrology, and she wants to kill loads of babies and be really sort of like ragey. I'm not talking about you directly or judging you that way. This is just a character. However, she's known for being a feminist, and I wonder if there's some feminist uprising coming up this weekend. I wonder if there's some very strong storyline coming up about feminine suppression versus rising up. To me, the humiliation is the difficulty. And later on in the Lilith story, she does get to transcend her anger. She really does. She understands that the feeling of rejection is really huge, and she moves beyond it. But in the asteroid state, she's still really, really in the pain of it. And because of the pain, she's expressing it as anger. So this is interesting. Lilith is in a conjunction with the sun at the time of the full moon. Now, Urania, she's the nicest, easiest character here. I really like asteroid Urania. I mean, she's an astrologer's asteroid. She measures the heavens. She studies the planets. She's full of cosmic knowledge and wisdom. And she's also known for loving things, like she is a lover, not a fighter. So she is all about seeing the patterns, understanding the heavens, and making it make sense. Now, how does this all fit together? Well, I don't exactly know. To me, this sounds like a very, very strong full moon where what's coming up from underneath is likely to really come into our consciousness. And we might find that stuff that's going on around us that might not actually directly impact us is utterly triggering in our own inner stories. So, for instance, if you're hearing about somebody else's suppression or somebody else's humiliation or somebody else's death mist, from Achlys, that all of a sudden you might start to match that energy yourself and start to worry about a story that's not yours, but it will feel very, very relevant. I think this is a day when we could absolutely be really swayed strongly because of things coming up. I also think this is a time when things that have been buried, secrets that have been buried, in particular about suppression of women, in particular about babies and children, and in particular about the underground, because obviously Pluto, the god of the underground, I think this could all come up starting this Friday. So to me, this is a huge unraveling, a huge revealing of information that is quite literally going to create a lot of strong emotions in people. So I think I'm going to leave that there. Now, if that has stirred you and you want to see where all of this sits in your chart, then feel free to get in touch. Or like I say, come tonight. If you see this straight away, come tonight, come to my Feel Good Astrology community. It's on the School platform. It's www.school, that's SKOOL.com/Feel Good Astrology. Come and join the hangout. You're very, very welcome to do that. If you don't get there in time but want to see the hangout, then come join my free community anyway, and that the replay will be put up tonight. So you can listen to the deeper sharings about how it might affect people according to where it is in your chart. So anyway, lots of love to you. And if I can be of any help, just get in touch. All of my details are below. Lots of love. Bye for now.